Okay, so in the midst of this crisis, I thought I would do a little introduction to immunology. Not the most super in-depth thing, but kind of gets it just across. So let's get started. Let me introduce you to the cast of the immune system. First, we got our little local defense guys, the macrophages. These can also be dendritic cells, neutrophils. They're just white blood cells. And they sit right underneath the skin. They line all of the mucosal cavities. Basically, anywhere that you have a hole or a tunnel, they sit there. Next, you got the Bcells. These are what you call your lymphocytes. And then you have your Tcells, also known as lymphocytes. You may have heard of Tcells when it comes to HIV. And then you got this old dude over here, which is kind of like a B in a T-cell, but he's kind of retired, kind of ex-military, and he hangs out with these guys over here, kind of watches out with them. He's kind of like, the vet that you don't really want to mess with, but he gets stuff done because he's been there and seen some shit. Those are the guys. And take this with a grain of salt. There's about 150 pages on each of those subjects. So, let's introduce the bad guys. We got the bacteria. And these guys usually affect outside of the cell. So, inside of your body, but outside the individual cellular components. So, they're, in your lungs, in your tummy, in your brain, in your wiener, in your butt, in your vagina. But they're not inside the cell necessarily, with exceptions. And then you got your viruses. And these guys are pretty stupid. They're just kind of like a ball of stuff, not necessarily alive. And they can't do anything unless they're inside of you, and they hijack all of your cellular function, like replication and all that stuff, to replicate them. So without you, they're totally worthless. So people argue, are they alive or not? They're actually pretty dumb, but they're so dumb that they're successful. So those are the two guys we're going to talk about. All right. So then let's get into the bacteria. So you get a little bacteria, he's swimming along, and you get this little macrophage, or it can be a dendritic cell. We call these antigen-presenting cells because they serve a function. So the macrophage is like, oh, bacteria, I'm going to eat you. Gobble, 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 gobble. And so he eats up the bacteria. There's dead bacteria inside of him. He phagocytizes them, so he eats it, brings it in, and then inside his little body he digests it. And then when he digests it, he gets this little arm and sticks it out on the side of his body and says, look what I got. He shows off. And it's on this little complex called MHC2, or major histocompatibility complex 2. So he's just waving around. So he's going to go show some people. So what he does is he goes and finds this T-cell, T helper cell. And he goes, yo, look what I found. And he shows it to him. The guy's like, oh my God, that's really interesting. That looks like something bad. And so he shows the T helper cell what he ate. And the T helper cell gets excited. And he squirts out all this juice. And all this juice just goes and tells the whole body to start doing stuff. It says the body tells it to get hot. It tells it to start replicating itself, so it makes more T cells. It starts getting other, what we call cytokines, ready for a fight. And then it runs to tell his B cell friend. So he's like, all right, thanks, macrophage. You did a great job. And the macrophage is like, oh my God, I'm such a good person. And he is. And so then the T cell goes, I got to go. Bye. So T cell goes, yo, B cell, look what I found. And B cell's just been sitting around for forever, He got made when you're born. He sits in your lymph nodes, sits in your thymus, sits everywhere, and does nothing until a T cell comes and goes, hey, do you recognize this? And the B cell goes, yeah, I recognize that. And he goes, we got a problem. So B cell goes, oh my God, I got to do something. So B cell realizes there's an intruder, and he starts making antibodies. He's like, brrr. He starts to mature. All this stuff changes. He goes through puberty. He's no longer a baby B cell. He's a mature plasma cell. And his job is to make tons of antibody just for this one bacteria that macrophage ate. So he starts, just spewing that out. Just now, we got a bunch of little antibodies floating in the blood. So whenever a bacteria comes, these antibodies will stick to them, and that sticking to them has multiple effects. Either the antibody will cover the bacteria, and the bacteria just can't function, which is one thing. Other cells have receptors for the antibody where it'll bind to this portion here, and then once it binds there, it'll be like, all right, time to shoot it. So it'll shoot it, or we'll have like little grenades that will stick, and if it sticks to that, then it'll blow up and start blowing up the bacteria. So the B cell's doing its job, and the B cell will be around for forever now. So if we ever find that bacteria again, all the T cell has to do is go to that B cell and be like, it's back, and he just squirts that antibody out again. And that's how it works. Next, we come to the virus. A little more tricky, because the virus is sneaky. The virus doesn't live outside the body. The virus infects the host cell. So it goes inside. These are little cells, little houses. He comes in and starts doing his thing. He hijacks the cell, makes it his own house. He basically squats in it. But he doesn't, without a house, he can't live. So what he does is pretends that, hey, this is my house. So he has a little sign out there, and that's him holding his sign out there saying, look, I'm a house, I'm a house. So everything kind of looks normal. So then this T cell comes, and he's just kind of looking, and T cell comes to check on his buddy. Uh-oh. He notices that the sign that's being held out is not our cell. It's got a different protein to it. He's like, this is not right. So he slowly creeps up to it. He sticks his little arm on there, touches it, and goes, yep, shit's going on. There's only one thing to do. And remember, the cell is his friend. But he knows that cell lives, that cell start making babies. So T cell comes up there, grabs it, gives the cell a gun. He doesn't do it himself and goes, here, buddy, end your pain. And so what the cell has to do is go through a program called apoptosis. Now this is important because rather than just blowing up the cell, all that would do is blow up the cell and then release all the viruses back out, and they'd infect. What it does is kills it, and then the cell shrivels up and traps all the virus, and then they die. Sad, but effective, because if you kill just one, then all the neighboring ones will be okay. But viruses are tricky. Some viruses are smart. They don't let the cell show that they're sick. They close all the windows. They don't hold that little thing out. They're like, we're not going to get killed by the T cell. What they forgot was the old veteran, the natural killer cell. So, we have all these groups of cells here. Happy. What's this? And happy. This guy's like, hi, natural killer cell, look at me. He's like, okay. This guy just wants to kill everything. He will kill unless he sees this. He will kill all of your cells unless you're waving at him. But you're waving at him, you have to wave the correct signal. Well, this guy's infected with virus. This guy was afraid that the T cell would come and kill him, so he's not waving. He's like, I'm just sleeping. Natural killer cell, he's been through a lot. Vietnam, Desert Storm, Black Friday. So he sees this cell, sleeping, not answering the door. He goes, son, I'm killing you. Hey. If there isn't a response, natural killer thinks the worst, and he destroys the cell. Same thing with cancer cells. That's how it's done. Sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's, we try to solve things without violence. We did try to take bacteria and viruses to court. We just got tied up in a lot of red tape. A lot got set free. We had to do a lot of prisoner exchange. So it doesn't work that way. But there's your 9-minute 20-second into immunology. Remember, there's a million more things that go on with bigger words, more ambiguous numbers, and a lot more chemicals. But who needs to know about that when you got Facebook?